now call this meeting of the Parks, Recreation, and Arts Commission to order. City Clerk, would you please conduct a roll call?
Present.
Commissioner Kucharski?
Here.
Commissioner Jose Leon Barraza? Absent. Commissioner Singh?
Present.
Commissioner Cummings?
Present.
Commissioner Miller?
I'm here.
Vice Chair Dolan?
I am here.
Chair McCoy?
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. We will now begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Will everyone please stand? Ready? Salute. Thank you. We will start with the approval of the agenda. City Clerk, are there any changes or proposed changes to the agenda?
No, there isn't.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Cummings. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say no. This item is approved. We will now move on to approval of minutes. Are there any changes to the minutes from October 30th, 2023?
No, there isn't.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes from October 2023?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Miller. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Commissioner Cummings. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say no. This item is approved. We will now move on to subcommittee reports. This item is a discussion item for the commission, and no public comments will be taken related to this item. Does the Cultural Arts Plan Subcommittee have an update it would like to provide to this commission?
The arts guidelines will be in front of the City Council on November 16th.
Thank you. Does the Parks Master Plan Subcommittee have an update it would like to provide to the commission?
There is no report today. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move on to member reports and comments. As a reminder, this is a time for commission members to report anything they feel important for the public or commission to know, but is not a time for a discussion. Commissioner Singh?
I do, in fact, have some updates. I just wanted to give an open invite to the community at Just One St. Color Park this Saturday, November 11th. We'll be throwing a block party. In the morning from 7 to 8, there will be a 5K walk, so definitely register for that if you'd like. But otherwise, just swing on by. We'll have free food, bounce house for the kids, music, games, all that good stuff. And just hoping to bring all our communities together and have a good time.
Thank you. Commissioner Miller?
Nothing for me at this time, thanks.
Thank you. Vice Chair Dolan?
Just a little disappointment that the bounce house is only for the kids. But other than that, I'm fine.
Commissioner Cummings?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Kucharski?
Not at this time. Thank you.
Commissioner Ward?
Nothing at this time.
Thank you. Just like to say that during the Halloween, it was good to see all the city parks having some type of activity for the kids. I rode around to a lot of different parks in different parts of town, and it was a lot of people, especially at the West Fresno Family Resource Center. There was a line that went down the street, around the corner. It was really hard to get into, and I was just so proud to see that. So good job. Kudos to you, city parks. We will now move on to city administration and park staff reports and comments. Does anyone from the administration have any reports or comments for the commission?
on Zoom tonight. I have no comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone from the park staff have any reports or comments for the commission?
Thank you, Chair McCoy. Aaron Aguirre, Parks Director. And we had a number of events and all well attended. And thanks to Maxi Parks and our CBO, West Fresno Family Resource, the partnership and really getting the word out for those long lines. It was appreciated. Just two quick items. Last week at council approved an agreement for professional services, engineering and architectural for the West Fresno Community Center Rehab Planning Project. Again, the project description, these are the 4 West Fresno Community Centers, Mariella Brown, Frank H. Ball, Sunset, and Maxi, all located in the highest needs. The project will engage community stakeholders and analyze existing site conditions to identify highest priority community needs and develop a rehab plan for each of the 4 community centers. The improvements will increase accessibility, provide deeded features and amenities, and create a vibrant, safe, and comfortable community space for the residents of Southwest Fresno. So we're excited to kick that project off. And then again, wanted to remind the commission and the community that we are starting the Senior Outreach Phase 2. Tomorrow, November 7th, the Senior Activity Center from 5:30 to 7 p.m. is our first meeting. The following day, the 8th, Ted C. Wills from 9 to 11 a.m. And then following week, November 14th, we'll be at Senior Citizens Village from 9 to 11 a.m. And then finally, the link at Blackstone, November 15th from 1 to 3. So we invite the community to come out and give their input and see the great work that's been done. Thank you.
Thank you. One question, Director Aguirre. Will the meeting tomorrow be the hybrid one?
Yes, that is the hybrid meeting.
Okay, just wanted to remind the public there is a hybrid option for the first meeting.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. We will now move on to unscheduled communication. Will any member of the public like to speak on any issue within the jurisdiction of this commission? You will have up to 3 minutes. As a reminder, if you would like to comment on a scheduled workshop, now is the time to make those comments. If you would like to make a comment regarding any of the scheduled hearings, comments will be taken when each item is called.
Thank you, everyone. Sarah Parks with the San Joaquin River Parkway and Conservation Trust. I had just a couple of quick questions in advance of the workshop on the landscape division, safe walking and biking trails beautification, and the San Joaquin River Parkway. You will see in the presentation, there's a slide with some numbers with regards to programs and projects that have notes about the status. So I do have a question I'm hoping will be covered in the workshop about the Barstow bike lanes. I drive that corridor pretty regularly, and I noticed it looks like the lanes are painted and that's all been done, but the barriers have not been installed, so I'm curious about the timing and what that might look like. And then with regards to the San Joaquin River Parkway, in the notes and status box, it says that there will be a new dedicated trail crew, and that's in the recruitment phase. And I thought that there is a dedicated trail crew, at least for the Eaton Trail. It certainly looks better than it ever has, so kudos to Public Works for all of the great work that's happening there. I run it regularly. So I'm curious what the new trail crew will be doing and if that will extend beyond the Eaton Trail. And then my other question about the Parkway update that I'm hoping will be covered, the city hired Quadnoff earlier this year to work on a plan for how to spend the Parkway funds. And I don't think we've seen that yet, so I'm curious when that will be coming out. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Do we have anyone online?
No.
Thank you. I will close unscheduled communication and move on to workshops. ID number 23-1615, overview of fiscal year 2024 landscape trails beautification in San Joaquin River Parkway to inform the fiscal year 2025 budget. Will someone from the Parks Department please begin the presentation?
Chair McCoy, we're actually going to have 2 of our stakeholder groups, Public Utilities. Mr. Mark Standriff will start the presentation and then hand it off to Director Mosier of Public Works for the second part.
Good evening. Thank you, Chair McCoy, and good evening, Commissioners. My name is Mark Standriff. I'm the Director of Beautify Fresno for the City of Fresno. Very pleased to be able to give you our presentation, not just about where we stand with the budget for fiscal year 2024, but kind of a progress report on what we've been doing in the community over the last year and certainly during the last few months of this particular fiscal year. As you can see on the budget recap that's in front of us there today, the total budget of monies in the Beautify Fresno budget for fiscal year 24 coming through Measure P funding is $1.2 million approximately. The vast majority of that money comes from either personnel, and this is a couple of crews that we have that are directed to Beautify Fresno work, illegal dumping, litter control, and other solid waste activities. And then landfill tipping fees, which are waste disposal costs that go to the local landfills. Other than that, $100,000 for public relations information. The fleet service is just the maintenance and the fuel charges for our various vehicles that are going out. Other materials and supplies, and then miscellaneous, which is travel and expenses, event management, membership and dues, and what have you. As we stand right now, the personnel is on track after 4 months of activity. Our landfill tipping fees, we've had some issues in directing that money from the Beautify Fresno funds, and I'm not throwing anybody under the bus. We have a new business manager, and we didn't have somebody for a while. They were taking all of our, what should be going out of landfill tipping fees and putting that into the solid waste tipping fees. So we managed to figure out what the problem there, and that money's going to be redirected. So that will track a little bit more closely to the $465,000 that we have mentioned. And then the $100,000 for public relations and information, we're actually in the process of directing a new campaign. If you'll recall, when we spoke back in June of this year and kind of presenting what we'd done previously, we had an anti-litter campaign called Don't Be a Litterhead. That's been through the process now for 2 years in a row, and we're now changing our direction because we've actually discovered, and I know that this is a surprise to many of you, but there are folks out there that have never heard of Beautify Fresno. So we'd like to get a campaign out there that brings top of mind awareness to folks that this is a movement within the city of Fresno to kind of make our city a cleaner, greener, more beautiful place to live. And in addition to the volunteer opportunities out there, the services that we provide on a daily basis through funding through Measure P. So that will actually start after the beginning of the year. But that's pretty much all I have for the budget recap for this. And then looking ahead to 2025, right now we've just been kind of told to maintain an even strain. I just hired a new community coordinator. We've been without one for a couple of months. So our personnel costs, overall through our general funding will be a little bit less for this year. But I would love to have one more person to kind of help cover our education directives. And I think if you'll recall when I spoke in June, I mentioned that education was a primary goal for us, that we had at that time 17 Beautify Fresno clubs that had been established in schools K through 12, public and private, across the city of Fresno. That number now has grown since the beginning of the year to 21 clubs. And this past Saturday, those clubs were out cleaning up around their campuses and in the community. Over 800 students participating in that event and removing over 7,000 pounds of trash and litter in service to the neighborhoods and the areas, the parks, the trails, the alleys that surround their campuses. So we'd like to have somebody dedicated to really kind of focus on those educational issues and to help us connect with other schools to continue to grow this program. So that's really where we stand. If I can get the next slide here to talk about what we've done so far this year. You'll see this is an update, and the numbers that are up there right now, for the most part, are projections of where we will finish by the end of this year. Last year we had 120 cleanup events. This year we're on track for 145. Over 9,000 volunteers and 130 groups. We've been very pleased to see multicultural representation, and if you'll mention World Cleanup Day, which happened on September 16th, we had representative organizations with Hispanic, Hmong, and Punjabi communities helping us establish the cleanups in their respective communities. Two major events since the beginning of the fiscal year, the Mayor's Citywide Community Cleanup Day, and what was great about that is that we had 1,300 volunteers in 87 locations throughout the city many of them choosing a place that they would like to clean rather than us directing them to clean it up in a specific location. And of course, I just gave you the details on Fresno Youth Service Day. So far this year, we're 120,000 pounds of trash and 200,000 square feet of graffiti removed. Neighborhood blitzes, if you recall, these are kind of like our extreme makeover neighborhood edition, where we work in concert with Public Works to get us to identify communities that have specific infrastructure needs. And these are recommendations that we get through our council districts, where the council members will say, I'd like to serve this particular area in my district. So on a Thursday, we'll send out anywhere from 6 to 8 crews that will do tree trimming, sidewalk repair, pothole patching, street sign and traffic sign replacement, weed and graffiti abatement, street sweeping, and crosswalk and curb painting, all in the space of one day. So with these folks will come into usually an area between a quarter-mile square. And then on that Saturday, 2 days later, then we bring our volunteers to actually pick up trash in the neighborhood. And we will take care of 6 of the 7 council districts. My apologies always to District 6, but they don't need the infrastructure help as much as many of the other places, especially those areas south of Shaw. We had a District 7 pilot program that Councilmember Esparza had set up through our funding in fiscal year 22 that actually focused just on that area. We saw a 30% reduction in the number of requests for illegal dumping service in the space of that year. So we decided in the fiscal 24 budget to expand that out. And so now we have 4 crews. We divide the city into quadrants with Blackstone running north-south, Ashland running east-west, and each crew deals with a different quadrant, and they are proactively going out looking for trash and litter to pick up. So they're not waiting for reports to come in from 311 and from Fresno. So this is a very exciting activity. And what we're seeing now in our neighborhoods is an actual reduction in the amount of trash that we see on a regular basis. We have an online educational curriculum that we've been working on for the past year or so, thanks to an AT&T grant that we hopefully will launch in January of 2024. That's pending authorization from each one of the major school districts in the city finally signing off on that. And then we're very excited this weekend to start the first of our 2 wintertime parade cleanups. We'll have a group of about 40 volunteers following the Beautify Fresno Band, which will be the very last entry in the Veterans Parade this year, and we'll be picking up the trash along afterwards to make sure that we leave things clean after the thousands of people who will be attending enjoy the parade and the festivities. And it's a service that we like to provide to the committee on a regular basis. We're also looking ahead toward December 2nd at the Downtown Christmas Parade in helping out the Downtown Fresno Partnership. I'll be turning things over to Scott Mosier, but Aaron, at this time, would it be good for me to open for any questions you might have?
Chair, I don't know if you have any questions at this point for Mark, and then we can turn to Scott.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and open it up to the commissioners. Commissioner Singh, do you have any questions? Commissioner Miller?
I just have a quick one on the slide that had 460,000 or so in dumping fees. Is that, and I think you touched on it, is that a makeup number for a previous period, or is that?
No, that's landfill tipping fees for every year. Typically, in the past, before Beautify Fresno started, everything would go through solid waste. And so we send everything over to the carts facility, and it's weighed there, and then we pay tipping fees out of that for them to process all the materials at that point. And so for us this year, we decided for Beautify Fresno, to be able to take some Measure P money to be able to take care of those landfill tipping fees that would be directed toward us and the activities, not just with our volunteers on the weekends, but the crews that I have out. I have a total of 5 crews that go out. I take that back, it's more than that now, 7 with the 4 different quadrants. A total of 7 crews that are out every single day processing those materials.
That's where all the poundage is, because the one sheet said 120,000 pounds at a tipping cost of $460,000.
Yeah, no, that's minimal. Last year, the mayor instituted
I just hope we're not paying $4 a pound to dump it.
He instituted a £1 million challenge. He wanted 90% of it to come from the Beautify Fresno crews that were working every single day, and then 10% of it from the volunteer efforts that we did on the weekend. So the good news is that we reached that £1 million goal on Memorial Day. The bad news is we reached that £1 million goal on Memorial Day. So we had to go out and extend that to a £2 million challenge. So we actually ended up with 2.1 million pounds total of solid waste that we removed from the streets, alleys, parks, and trails and vacant lots around the city of Fresno last year. And again, we're tracking right about that same amount for this year.
I knew that was the case, just the way it was presented had me confused. But thank you for your work. Love the program.
Thanks.
Vice Chair Dolan?
Yes. First, I just want to thank you, Mr. Standroff, for your presentation and your time tonight. I really, I think Beautify Fresno is a great program that does a great deal. And I do want to say that I did see the crews out on Saturday. I saw the kids out, and I was I kind of wondered what was going on because it was pretty early in the morning.
We had a couple of our Beautify Fresno clubs at Roding Park and picking up some trash there within the confines next to the zoo.
Yeah. So I guess the question I have, I noticed, and it's not in front of me right now, so I didn't jot down the exact number, but you do sort of chart how much pounds of trash you're collecting through these various efforts. And I guess part of my question is just, do you see any sign that Beautify Fresno, in addition to the work on the ground, is having any impact on reducing the amount of trash that is on the streets, that the education outreach is working?
That's a great question, and I'm very pleased to say that the answer is yes. Because the goal, I know it's counterintuitive for those folks in the business world, because if you're producing widgets, you'd like to sell more widgets every year. Right, but what we want to see is we want to see a gradual reduction, especially in those areas that we're hitting. We have hot spots that we hit every single day. We're going up and down Blackstone. We have the Tower District. We have Belmont Avenue, which is going basically from Blackstone to First Street. We've got Chinatown and downtown that we're not just with our crews, but other folks. I have an adult offender program that works Chinatown every single day. And sometimes they get into the downtown area. And much like you find when you have your kids cleaning their rooms on a regular basis rather than waiting for some disaster to happen and they have friends over and they want to clean, it's a lot easier to do and it's easier for us to maintain. So we're seeing a slight reduction. It's not dramatic by any stretch of the imagination. But for instance, last month we were at the corner of Clinton and Marks. And if you travel north on Marks, when it eventually turns into Shields, there's a couple of vacant fields there that always have a lot of trash. People just go in and dump because there's no curb. They can drive right up. That whole corner tends to get a lot of transient activity and a lot of folks in the trucking community that like to park and just kind of hang out in that place. But what we found is we've been there 3 times now since we started Beautify Fresno in January of 2021. And every single time, we'll have the same number of people. We're covering exactly the same area. But the first time we were out there, we picked up 1,600 pounds of trash. The next time, it was 1,400. This time, it was just a little over 1,000. So we're starting to see that. In some of the areas that hopefully you're traveling on a regular basis, hopefully you're noticing that there's fewer and fewer examples of, oh my goodness, why doesn't somebody take care of all that garbage? But it's a gradual process because really what we're trying to do is change behavior. Right. And the only way that we can do that is to present to folks there's a change from the city's perspective in attitude and accountability. The attitude now is the status quo is no longer acceptable, and that we're going to be relentless in our approach to go after and try to pick up as much trash as we can on a daily basis. And that the attitude has changed. The accountability then comes to the property owners that hopefully are starting to see this and say, you know what, I've got to step up my game too. And so we're seeing that with the residents who are very appreciative when we come into their neighborhoods, the business owners that are starting to see less and less trash sitting around in their parking lots and along the sidewalks. So we hope that, the bottom line is I'm not going to work myself out of a job anytime soon. But it's good to note that we're starting to see a very slight and gradual and consistent decrease in the trash where we work on a regular basis.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner Cummings?
I have no questions.
Commissioner Kurchowski?
Thank you. That's really amazing. I'm very excited to hear about all the work that this campaign has done. My question about I just want a better understanding of how many people are doing this every day. You said 7 crews. How many are in each
So I have a total of 18 employees. There's 2 administrative, myself, and the community coordinator, and then another 16, which are utility lead workers. We have, if we could go back to that first slide again. We have sanitation supervisors and then a couple of program compliance officers that are making sure that our crews are doing what we have tasked them to do. And so those crews, there's, as I said, a total of 7 crews that are out there. They're 2-man crews,
Okay.
basically, with a couple of supervisors.
Yeah, and they're working every day, just picking up.
Virtually every day.
Yeah.
I mean, we do pickups on Sundays now.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioner Ward?
Just wanted to thank you for your presentation. The past couple of years, my daughter and I have volunteered on Earth Day with Beautify Fresno through her Girl Scout troop, and it's been a really wonderful way for the youth to kind of learn how to make a tangible benefit or impact in their community. So thank you.
Thanks.
I have a couple of questions
Sure.
for you. For the 6 neighborhood blisses, which neighborhoods were you in? Do you know that by
I'm sorry.
So you have on here Beautify Fresno, and you did 6 neighborhood blisses, intensive infrastructure repairs and litter abatement. What neighborhoods did you do that in?
Let's see if I can go back. Our last neighborhood was the, I want to say in District 7, we did the Rowell neighborhood. In District 3, we were, boy, this is really catching me off guard. I didn't have that prepared to answer. But I know that, for instance, in District 3, we've done the Kirk neighborhood and also the King neighborhood. And I'm trying to think where we did this last year. Many of these locations are around schools, elementary schools, because we want to make sure that they're focusing on that. In District 2, which is coming up in just a couple of weeks, will be around the area of Nelson Elementary, which is just south of Herndon, I think, in the Palm and Sierra neighborhood. District 4, we were in the Villain neighborhood. Who else? District 1, I think we were north of, around Clinton. It would have been in, let's see, is it the Webster neighborhood? Again, I wish I had those things. I can get that information to you if you'd like me to
Yes, I would
email
like
it.
that. Thank you.
Yeah. But again, we actually reach out first to the council districts because they're the ones that are getting the complaints or the requests for infrastructure service. And so out of that, then we make a site visit, and I have somebody from street maintenance go out with me, and we determine that in that usually quarter mile by quarter mile square area that we've got a lot of things that we can do in the space of a day that will make it worth our crews to really super concentrate on that particular neighborhood. And then from there, it's just scheduling and getting the volunteers to come out on a Saturday.
Yeah, we asked this question during last budget hearing in June when you presented to us, and you didn't have the information for us again, and we asked to get it, and we never received that information along with some other things that we asked. So just please make sure that we get that information. I just want to make sure that they're in the highest needs neighborhood, that you're doing the neighborhood blisses in.
I'll make sure I get that right away. But again, we're following the lead of our council districts.
No, I totally understand.
Yeah.
I just want to check to make sure that they're in the highest needs neighborhoods, according to the definition that was set by this commission.
Certainly.
Also, my other question is the online environmental education curriculum. How do you plan to reach residents and communities that are not online friendly, that don't have access to internet? How do you plan on educating them?
So this is an actual program that goes, this is for educators. So this is a program that gives them the opportunity to download a series of a week-long curriculum that has study guides. In some cases, there are activities that we have for each one of those days so that they download that, and then in turn, they can use that for their kids. So when they are actually accessing the materials online, they can present them however they want to. They don't present them online. So it's just, there's activity.
Like
There's a
a
coloring book
toolkit.
for kids. So it's not meant, as a presentation tool for the educators, that's not meant to present them online. They'll be able to, something tangible that they can actually show them, they can work on in class, and then from there, find some activities they can take them out, maybe do a cleanup in the area, maybe look at some things that are trash materials to figure out, because we give them all kinds of information that's based on studies that are done by Keep America Beautiful and the Department of the Interior that come from the federal government. And then, what we find in dealing with our friends here locally. So if there's a concern about people in the public, this is really directed toward educators. And as a matter of fact, there's one program K through 6 and the other is 7 through 12.
Got it, thank you. A couple more questions and then I'll let you go. Fleet services, those fleet services include electric vehicles?
I don't have any electric vehicles at this time.
You don't have any charge? Okay.
Not right now.
And then my other question is, you may not know this right now, but I would like to have this information. I understand that Beautify Fresno is primarily funded by the general fund, but do you know how much is allocated out of Measure P?
The percentage, yeah, it's 1.2 million out of Measure P, and then another 3.5 million out of the general fund.
Thank you. Those are my questions.
All right. I appreciate it. Thank you all. And I'll turn things over to Scott Mosier from Public Works for the next presentation.
All right. Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Scott Mosier with Public Works Department. And also, if we can queue up the next presentation. Thank you, City Clerk's Office. We'll be talking about our landscape maintenance operations, which includes park maintenance and park irrigation repairs, along with everything housed in the Public Works Department in Category 5 for the safe walking and biking trails and beautification. All right, and we are almost there. Very good. If we can go, all right, thank you. All right, let's see if we can get this to go to next slide. Okay, there we go. All right, very good. So starting off with park maintenance and park irrigation on the first slide. So this shows two categories of funding in our operation. Of course, our landscape maintenance division, we handle not only park maintenance and park irrigation, but also we do trail maintenance citywide, median islands, community facilities districts, street trees, and also San Joaquin River Parkway. But this slide deals with park maintenance and park irrigation. So what you see for under park maintenance, which is our just general mowing, edging, blowing, things like turf rehabilitation, special projects in the parks. So our operating budget is made up of two sources. One is Measure P, Category 1 at $6.5 million, and the general fund at $2,550,200. We've looked at our expenditures through mid-October. So in Measure P, $206,000, and then general fund $998,928. We do tend, just as a practice, to expend the general fund dollars first. We want to make sure that we meet our maintenance of effort, our MOE in terms of Measure P. But also on the Measure P side, a lot of those appropriations that are in the budget are for things that just have not hit yet. For example, our park detail crew, a 4-person crew that will work year-round in the parks. That was actually approved the previous fiscal year, and now the staff, the recruitment's completed, whole process of, in some cases, someone filling a position and then vacating another position through promotion, and then those positions getting filled. They are now in place, and they'll start both the labor and then also material expenses, because park detail crew, they do a lot of work with both aeration, reseeding at the right time of year, doing things like shrub planting, augmenting the beds, which involves mulch, materials, so you'll see lots of work coming from them. Fiscal year 24 budget that was adopted by the City Council includes a new mow crew, 8-person crew for the new parks that are coming online. So they are under recruitment, and as noted here, fleet charges have not hit yet, which means the cost of trucks, mowers, and things like that. So once all of those staff are on board, then we plan to deliver on all those much-needed improvements. Park irrigation is the other big component for us, a very busy operation. Every weekend we typically have 2 to 3 dozen calls and issues on park irrigation citywide. You can see the budget, it's almost equally split between Measure P and the general fund in this category. And thus far, we are expending quite a bit of that funding. Our experience is about 75% of those dollars, the time and materials, are dealing with vandalism in the parks with the irrigation systems, and many of those in the highest need neighborhoods. The budget for this year included 2 new irrigation specialists that are in the recruitment phase for the highest need neighborhoods. One will be primarily based at Roding Park and will remain there, and the other will rotate through and augment the efforts in highest need neighborhoods. We do anticipate, wanted to share with the commission, just you can see how we're trending on the irrigation repair work. So we do anticipate a budget transfer between just the general park maintenance and into irrigation, because that's where the need is very significantly. All right, I'll go to the next slide. I'll just go through all these, and then as the commission has questions, be glad to go back. All right, and there we are. Bucket 5. This is the safe walking and biking trails category. And just quick recap, as we've discussed, the commission has discussed previously, and you're familiar with 47% of that revenue is for trails, both for development of those projects, design, construction. The city can use up to 20% of the funds in the category for operations and maintenance. We're very careful with that calculation, and no less than 25% on the high priority network, or priority network in the ATP. 18% of the funding, I'm sorry, that skipped ahead one slide. 18% of Category 5 is for sole use along the San Joaquin River Parkway, and then 35% is for litter control and beautification, as my colleague Mark Standriff was sharing, and I'll have more to share on the public works side of that. We included a table in the presentation about the different projects approved in the budget and activities under Category 5. One is trail maintenance. As a question came up earlier about the trail crew, we do have the first trail crew that was filled shortly after the new year, early 2023. That got us up to a 90-day maintenance cycle on trails around the city. However, there was also a second trail crew approved by the City Council in the budget this year. And that second crew is to be devoted only to the San Joaquin River Parkway for both ongoing maintenance, but also for projects identified in the planning efforts, such as additional tree planting, irrigation system repairs, things down with the McMichael Loop Trail in the river bottom. So moving down the list, you can see we're moving along well on the trail maintenance category expenditures, and this is that 20% cap I was referring to earlier. In terms of capital projects, these code numbers, these project numbers, those are straight out of the budget document for reference. So one is the Shields Trail, the segment 1 of the Midtown Trail. That is under construction. Last fiscal year, we had the actual dollars for construction. So this year includes a smaller amount, and the $33,000 expended is really for staff cost. That should be completed early 2024 and opened up. We're very excited. We have a project where Measure P funds are leveraging the transformative climate community dollars. This is the third one, the Southwest Fresno green trails and cycle tracks. So we are able to achieve in the adopted budget a much better project for that Southwest Trail network in the area just south of California Avenue from west over to Thorn, following the Church Road alignment, which is amazing. It's actually it was a dedicated road, but basically dirt. It was a dirt street in Fresno. It's just shocking, but part of that area is able to be turned into a trail. Very exciting. The City Council's awarded the first of 2 contracts for that construction. One to address some Fresno Irrigation District facilities that are in the way, and the second to award them the trail contract. So that will be constructed here in '24. That is $2.4 million of Measure P accompanying $1.5 million in TCC funds. Next one is the Barstow Class 4 protected bike lanes. That is 95% complete in construction. 2 issues remain to get that fully done. The contractor, they had some equipment breakdown, and the special green markings, MMA is the acronym, but for that protected bike lane, they are not able to put that down. They need to get that placed first, and as soon as that's done, then the post, the flexible post along the whole corridor can go in. So we're continuing to press the contractor there for delivery and finalization. Next item, number 5, is still in the scoping phase. This is $100,000 our council has approved for basically urban greening along the trail. So this is really a tree planting capital project along trails, high priority trails in the city. So we are in the scoping phase and certainly open to input and ideas, and in partnership with some of our community organizations focused on tree planting in those areas. Next, as I mentioned, the San Joaquin River Parkway. We do have $1.45 million appropriated. We've only spent $51,000, and this again really has 2 things that are needed to be finished to really get this launched and moving then rapidly. One is, I mentioned, the new trail crew under recruitment for trail maintenance and construction. But the second is we're working with QK, the consultant on that. We are committed to, we just got the last comments back to the consultant, and we're committed to have that draft ready for the San Joaquin River Conservancy and the Parkway Trust in December. And I hope we can have that draft. What it is that's both a needs assessment for the entire parkway, and then a prioritization list and a recommended best practice for maintenance and everything that needs to be done. So, and that would lay the groundwork for a spending plan going forwards. Last on this list is coming from the street beautification and litter removal category. You've heard, the commission's heard a lot about Beautify Fresno, but I also wanted to highlight for you major street beautification is also in the list of Measure P activities and what was contemplated. So going to the next slide, we're highlighting major street beautification here. And we've been doing a lot of this somewhat behind the scenes, but some things we've accomplished with city crews through Measure P in this past year were Ventura Kings Canyon, major replanting of the median islands along the corridor. We wrapped that up before the Fresno Fair had started this year. The downtown median islands had really not seen any reinvestment in about 20 years in areas around the former Met Museum, Tulare Street, Fresno Street, O Street, entry into downtown, so pretty wide area. A lot of the money, over 40% of the dollars were designated by the City Council for the work in Council District 4 and the Shaw Avenue and Cedar Avenue corridors near Fresno State. Those were really refreshed. A lot of landscape boulders, median island cap, hundreds of new trees planted in the median islands and irrigation systems upgraded to handle that. So that was all possible through $500,000 allocated there. Coming up is West Avenue south of Shaw. That's another one prioritized by the council. Bullard Avenue east of Polk. And right now under construction included a photo in the corner and also a concept, a very blighted corner, the northeast corner of Herndon and Blackstone is being upgraded right now, just with tens of thousands. You know, we have 50,000 vehicles a day on Herndon, another 40,000 plus on Blackstone will all drive by. Very prominent corner, just getting upgraded. And then lastly, wanted to provide a brief update. We talked about Barstow Class 4 protected bike lanes, one in many corridors around the city, made possible through Measure P. So that one is wrapping up. And then also on the Midtown Trail, 7-mile corridor system we've talked about previously during a workshop. So that is moving along well since the last update. This shows funding by segment, overall $21.9 million. No general fund, no maintenance funds being diverted, but largely federal and state grants. And both Measure C, the transportation sales tax measure, and also Measure P contributing to the project to make that happen. So we have 2 segments open, Fresno to First and then Clovis Avenue. And in 2024, we'll be completing the balance of the Midtown Trail system. And so then the clicker goes past these slides a little bit too quickly. So that shows funding sources for those segments. You can see the variety of them, and Measure P Category 5 are highlighted. That's participating in 2 of the segments to make this one possible. And I'm glad to answer any questions the Commission may have. Thank you.
Thank you for that presentation, Scott. I'm going to go ahead and ask my commissioners if they have any questions. Commissioner Singh, no questions? Commissioner Miller? Vice Chair Dolan?
Yeah, first, Mr. Mosher, thank you very much for that presentation. I really appreciate it. You guys accomplished an amazing amount of stuff. I was struck, though, by your and I'm sorry the slide's not up, but 75% vandalism to the irrigation systems? 75% of the budget goes to repair vandalism to the irrigation systems?
Unfortunately, yes. We would love to see that number get under control, and in discussions and strategizing with Director Gary, there's a lot of confidence that the park rangers coming online will help address a good portion. We would love to say all of that, but I think at least a portion of that, because just the things that we're seeing, in some case, activity of the unhoused, in some case, people attempting, for example, they want to turn on the sprinkler system to water down a field when it's not running, and they break valves, they break solenoids, whatever it may be. Or it's a situation of it's actually running at the time it's set for and someone wants to turn it off. We have numerous situations of the cages, irrigation cages being broken into, people stealing metal, stealing wire, whatever it may be. We've had one situation that was well known in City Hall of someone actually breaking in and wiring up an iPhone to it to charge a personal device. meanwhile causing, thousands of dollars of damage to the system. So, yes, so Vice Chair Dolan, we are busy every weekend, out of 24 plus calls. Typically, I'd say 15 to 20 of those are all vandalism related.
I can actually confirm that with commercial, privately owned properties, it's not that different. It's just an ongoing issue.
Okay, thanks. I mean, obviously it's something you guys are working on, but I would just, to your point, it's a tremendous amount of time and resources that go into that. And if there was, any headway on proactively preventing it in any way or monitoring it more closely so that it could be timely intervention, it would be money well spent, obviously, since you're obviously aware of that. So that's my only comment.
Thank you. Commissioner Cummings?
Sure. Thanks, Scott, for that presentation. I'm going to take the opportunity to ask some questions here. Do we have an urban forester for the city of Fresno?
So we have a team who addresses really the urban forest, and this is a good chance to walk through that. We have both certified arborists on staff. We have both an assistant director in the department, a division manager very focused on the urban forest, and in addition to that, we have a comprehensive tree inventory that's been completed, and we're excited we are underway with an urban forest management plan with the intent to bring that before the city council. To your question, do we have someone in the job classification of urban forester? We do, as the city of Fresno, we do not have that exact job specification or that exact title.
Right. And my understanding is that an arborist and an urban forester are very different positions. We have how many certified arborists with the city of Fresno?
I believe we have 2 currently.
And who is the city urban forester or the city arborist?
We have staff members. We have Dan Turner on our staff, and I believe within Parks Department.
Correct. We have a supervisor on the park staff who is a licensed arborist as well.
Okay. And who would you say serves as the visionary for the implementation of new trees for the city of Fresno?
So our approach is really a team approach. Some of the vision for new trees in areas, just by nature of our organizational structure, comes from the city council district offices. Dollars for that will wind up appropriated through council infrastructure, pots of money. We have a community coordinator in our landscape division who handles those requests. For example, we have an allocation for, it's called the 1,000 New Trees program each year. Within my department, we have a community coordinator who manages those dollars, looking for opportunities to fund them. And literally, we have more dollars right now than locations to plant them because we want to ensure that tree will be cared for and maintained, that it will have either dedicated irrigation or someone willing to provide that. That our community coordinator works under her manager and then also under her assistant director. And there's we have a performance requirement, basically a reporting requirement back to the city council each year. As adopted, the city manager has to provide a report to the council. And I was excited last year. I wonder, okay, I want to be sure to our team we're going to make it with our 1,000 trees, and we hit 2,000. So we want to keep up that success and do that one again.
And there was one particular district that probably outperformed the rest of them.
Absolutely.
Okay. I know District 4 was very involved in that. Regarding the urban forester, cities of this size often look to establishing a position for urban forester for the purpose of the strategic sort of expansion and care of the urban forests, especially as related to, there's been, my understanding, considerable inventories that have been taken, tree inventories, also the urban forest management plan, the parks master plan that's coming out. It would be an interesting move for the city of Fresno to establish a position within public works or utilities to be able to capitalize on those millions and millions of dollars of investments over the years, and to be able to push forward with that expansion, especially in terms of tree equity in neighborhoods that are considered high need. So I just wanted to mention that. We talk about irrigation as like kind of parts and pieces, and we talk about programming in parks, but we rarely actually say the word tree. And trees, urban trees, bring so much benefit to our communities, especially in areas that are highly polluted and where people are suffering inordinately with health diseases and heat-related illnesses. So I will say that one thing I would like to see one day is for the city of Fresno to move that direction, so there could be more of a coordinated effort, and then your department would be able to receive that support it deserves for the care and maintenance and expansion of the tree canopy. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just wanted to add, something like that may even come out as a recommendation of the Urban Forest Management Plan. So with that, Dudek Consulting is putting that plan together with a lot of stakeholder input. Certainly, I know that they are hearing that recommendation, and that may be something that comes forward to the City Council.
And particularly, it is a skill set in itself. It's more of sort of on the social science sector, sort of integrated with the knowledge of the inventories and these pieces. So it's very different than sort of the care of individual trees, like an arborist would have that responsibility. So I'm looking forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Chair, if I might add, that sounds like that could be a budget recommendation, Commissioner. Absolutely. So thinking ahead. Thank you.
Hint. Commissioner Kurchowski.
Thank you. Some of my questions were already answered by their questions. But additionally, I was curious on two things mostly. One, on the park maintenance budget, is this all for in-house city workers, or do you guys contract out any of the park maintenance to other landscaping companies, or is it all city public works?
These dollars, this is all for city forces, but also includes the utility bills, of course, and then it includes any equipment replacement purchases. So of course those are outside, but all of the labor contained within these numbers is generally within city forces. I do want to add that in previous fiscal years, there have been some opportunities where if we had vacancies, there was a lag in hiring, and more emergency situations like irrigation repairs, especially in the 90-degree, 100-degree weather. We have been able to use some emergency local irrigation repair companies, some vendors, to tackle some of that work. But generally speaking, these are city forces.
Yeah, I guess I was curious if it was that approach was the most cost efficient and you have more control over who's doing what, and or if contracting out a lot of this work is an approach that the city's thought about or not.
In terms of the full landscape division within Public Works, we actually have predominantly outsourced work. The area we outsource predominantly is in the community facilities districts, which are landscape buffers around the outside of subdivisions, pocket parks that are maintained not through general fund or Measure P, but through the CFD. as responsive as possible and deal with things like some of the vandalism and issues. We focus the city forces on our parks.
Great, thank you. And my other question was similar to the previous commissioner's comments on urban forestry. My question was about sort of along those veins and like design, landscape design for all these projects, looking at, conservation and, for instance, like our neighbors up the hill here, we have a lot of tree material that needs to be removed. And so if there's a way to make a partnership where some of that material could be brought down to the city and be utilized in any of this landscaping, that would be a huge win for our forests and for our air quality and for biomass utilization and some of these other conservation efforts. So I'm curious the best way to sort of bring that up I'll probably make a motion at some point to move some conservation efforts forward, but with this presentation, I was kind of excited to see some maybe room for reusing materials, looking at native plant species, and focusing some of this landscape design or urban forestry towards some conservation efforts too.
And that's, if I may answer, that's a great question. I probably should have covered that earlier. Currently, our street tree, the trimming program, the street tree program, actually generates more wood chips and material than we're currently able to utilize and dispose of. But as noted here, we have the park detail crew who has just started. They'll be utilizing some of that material. We've used it quite a bit on the trails. We've used a lot of the chips out on the trails. We've used it in some areas where we typically would not do that in, say, an area like I think about like Woodward Park with like the Art of Life Garden. We wouldn't use it because the chips are not of that kind of fine quality with lots of folks around, but in more passive areas, they've been excellent to use on a number of the multi-purpose trails. So we're looking actually to increase opportunity through both the San Joaquin River Parkway crew, with the trail crew, the park detail crew, to use more of that material. And I do know with each landscape architect we bring on board for the design, everything they're looking at drought tolerant, and making sure we're really water wise with that, native species, that they're resilient, hardy. But both there, we do have plan review staff, and then also anything that's on site with a park also goes through the city's planning and development department, building and safety division for that review. But those are excellent points.
Commissioner Kacharski, just to add to Director Mosier, we have 2 new parks that are coming on board, Dolores Huerta Park and South Peach. In those designs, you'll see native plantings and something a little different than our typical kind of shrubs. So we work closely with Director Mosier's team to identify kind of the maintenance plan and what goes into that. So we work closely with them on the maintenance, but more importantly, just on the native plant material as well. So that's a new kind of undertaking for the department.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Ward?
Thank you for your presentation. I wanted to ask a little bit about the Measure P investment into the San Joaquin River Parkway projects. I understand they're getting a dedicated trail crew, and in December, QK is presenting the needs assessment and recommendation spending plan. I was wondering kind of what the expectations were around when that's operationalizing, if you anticipate, the second half of the fiscal year, a lot of this money that's been allocated for the current budget is going to start being invested. And also, since there's kind of a dedicated amount in the ordinance set aside for these projects each year, if there's carryover from prior years reflected in this budget, or if it's showing up somewhere else, if you could just speak a little bit about that.
Absolutely. And the dollar amount shown back on the slide was in the amended budget for San Joaquin River Parkway. Let me get to the right slide here. That was $1,453,000. So that does include carryover from the previous year. Actually, total amount of revenue this year plus carryover was up at $2.5 million. And out of that, in this budget year, so the city council adopted, the council kept $1,453,000 within Public Works for San Joaquin River Parkway, and the council allocated about, I believe it was $1,083,000 or so, that sticks in my mind, for the Milburn Overlook along the corridor for a pretty major upgrade of that facility along the parkway. So that dollar amount is really, it is I will say very plainly, that is a placeholder. And Measure P includes language that talks about the city working collaboratively with the Parkway Trust and the Conservancy in planning and prioritizing of those. That effort is behind schedule. I want to come forward with that. That is behind schedule from what we had planned. We had envisioned a much shorter timeline for the consultant to complete that work, agree on priorities, projects, and move that forward. But once again, we just discussed with the consultant, we anticipate December, that being a final draft prioritizing. And then the trail crew with recruitment process, that trail crew should be on board more so around April. My hope is that the timing would be excellent for reaching decisions on that, and the crew can spend part of the time just on true day-to-day maintenance and part of the time more on planned projects and things to benefit the parkway.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you for that presentation, Scott. I just have a couple of questions. You said that normally the general fund money is spent before Measure P. Is that in all categories or just some categories?
Not necessarily in all. Funding is, if we have two funding sources in one area, sometimes that's because of eligibility, more in our public works, transportation type areas. Some things might be eligible for the Measure C and some things are not that fall to the general fund. In the case of park maintenance and park irrigation, the two both go into the same area. The only distinction, Measure P also has the highest need neighborhoods components. But we do generally just for accounting simplicity, what we'll typically do is have crews expending the general fund dollars first and fully utilizing those, and then switching over over to the Measure P. And then in that case, we're sure that the city has fulfilled its general fund commitment per Measure P requirements. And then if there were unused dollars, it would really become unused dollars on the Measure P side, which would of course carry over to the following year.
Thanks. Another question. We have opened the doors to the West Fresno Community College, which is a beautiful campus. Are there any plans to beautify that area around that campus? Because right now I know it's a lot of construction going on, but is there any plans by the city to beautify that area?
Most definitely, and we had not included those in the presentation simply because there were no Measure P funds in that, but that's rather exciting. So the City Council just awarded the contract. We have a project which included about $5.5 million of state grants, the TCC program, for a 10-acre community park right next to the new State Center Community College campus. But not only does it have $5.5 million of the TCC funds, the city also contributed about $6 million in developer fees towards that park. So that will be a new park. It will have a loop road around it. Park will have a walking, biking trail within it. The project includes just open turf area, includes kind of a fun design with like a lookout type, a little hill in there, a playground, slide, restrooms, and that will use up about 5 acres out of the 10. All the off-site improvements will be completed and all the backbone infrastructure, including the walking trail around it, but there will be some future phases and opportunities. So right now, that project is moving forward with actually $0 from Measure P on it, but certainly that's within, for future years, the commission and ultimately city council for looking at building that out. Also, in addition, through other funding sources, some federal grants, transportation dollars, Church Avenue, Martin Luther King Jr., and Jensen and Walnut all will be finished with curbs, gutters, bike lanes, walking trails, street lighting, and we're also, while we're at it, we're repaving all the streets too. We're repaving MLK and Church for everything that the grants are not doing. So that's pretty exciting. Those total up to over $20 million of investment right in that area.
Which is much needed, those roads, those streets are horrible. Now, are there any plans to repave Jensen?
There are also plans to repave Jensen. The city is partnering with Fresno County. Fresno County is the lead on the project, and we'll be repaving Jensen from MLK out to Fruit Avenue. The city is participating in that cost more so with our gas tax and SB $1 dollars within Public Works, but that is part of it, and no doubt repaving plus Jensen will have the trail that's included in the Southwest Pacific Plan and the general plan. That will be built along the frontage, so we're pretty excited how that area will be coming together.
Well, thank you. Thank you for answering my questions, and thank you for that presentation.
Thank you.
All right, we will now move on to hearings. Hearing ID number 23-1616, hearing actions pertaining to the Parks After School Recreation and Community Service, Parks Department fiscal year 2025 budget build as it relates to capital projects, after school recreation and community service programs, and trails and beautification, and the San Joaquin River Parkway. 1, presentation, overview of the fiscal year 2025 budget build process. Secondly, receive public input on expenditures related to the Parks Department fiscal year 2025 budget. Lastly, actions, make recommendations to the City Council for adoption of expenditures in connection to the Parks Department fiscal year 2025 budget. Would someone from the Parks Department please begin the presentation?
Thank you, Chair McCoy. Sorry to make you read that again.
Thank you for my coffee, though.
Yeah, we got coffee this time. So thank you so much, Commission, for having us again. I'll go through this a little bit more quickly this time. I am, of course, Ed Chenevere, Assistant Director for the Parks Department. Before we jump in, I do want to note there were several questions during last week's meeting. We do have a memo that's prepared to go out to you. We just need to get that finalized, so you should have that within the next 24 hours or so. I do have some answers to your questions in this presentation, though, so I'll run through those really quickly. So this, of course, is, there we go, the third of four opportunities to make budget motions, the 16th and the 30th of October. Of course, it's the 6th of November, and then we'll have our final budget hearing on the 20th. That's the last one before we begin building, really building our budget in earnest. Real quick on the overview of the timeline for the budget process here. Right after your recommendations are done, we'll go in and prepare our mid-year estimates. That will tell us what our carryover balances are, and we'll build the budget then in January and February so that we can submit that to the mayor for consideration in March. In May, the mayor will present his budget to the city council. We'll turn right back around and present that budget to you. You'll have a second shot to make any additional budget motions at that point in June. And then, of course, the city will adopt the budget in June of 2025. I'm going to jump over this slide real quick and come back to that at the end. So real quick, last week we had a request to show how Measure P funds break down across categories. This breakdown is, it's based on the revenue from FY24, which was about 48.22 million projected. Of course, we will see what the actuals come in, and then we'll have a new projection for next year. But assuming 48.2 million, this is roughly how that budget will break down. So category 1, of course, to improve and maintain safe, clean neighborhood parks and playgrounds. That would result in about 22.2 million. This is, of course, the funding. A lot of that you saw on some of the slides that Director Mosier presented. So to really maintain our landscapes and to operate all of our parks, park maintenance activities, et cetera, and also the main funding source for improving existing facilities, so for actually constructing improvements on parks that exist today. And of course, half of that needs to be dedicated to the highest needs neighborhoods. Category 2, new neighborhood parks, senior and youth recreation facilities. That's about $10.4 million annually, and about half, and of course, half of that must be committed to highest needs parks as well. Category 3, youth and senior recreation programs, after-school programs, and job training for youth and veterans. We get about $4.1 million for programming support through Measure P. You heard a lot of the presentations last week, which really speak to this. So a lot of our after-school activities, senior programs, youth employment is, of course, a key one, as 50% of this funding does need to be committed to job training and career development. One of the first things we did with Measure P, of course, was really launch our youth employment program. Category 4, expanded access to arts and culture, about $5.8 million for that annually. And then Category 5, safe walking and biking trails, street beautification and litter removal in the San Joaquin River Parkway, that would break down to about $5.4 million annually. And this one has a lot of complex categories, as Director Mosier showed, but about $2.5 million for acquisition, development, improvement, restoration, operations, maintenance, or rehabilitation projects, about $1 million for operations and projects consistent with the San Joaquin River Parkway Master Plan, and about $1.9 million for litter and debris removal, beautification, and restoration of major streets and highways. Category 6, of course, we had a brief discussion about this last week too. This is just the 0.75% that's available for fiscal administration, oversight, program planning, et cetera. That breaks down to about $361,000. So with that, I'm going to jump back to this slide. So with that, of course, today that's a really quick overview of the budget build process for FY 2025, where we are in it, and what the funds that Measure P makes available on an annual basis with some revenue assumptions. Next, we'll ask you to request input from the public about the Measure P allocations. And then, of course, this is your third of four opportunities, so we would really love to hear any recommendations that you may have for the City Council with regard to the FY 2025 budget. But before that, I am available if you have any questions for me.
I have a question. Can you clarify or remind us how much funding was set aside for nonprofits or other community organizations who provide after-school recreation, community services, and workforce development programming through our parks system to apply for Measure P funding to assist them in their missions? How much was set aside in previous budgets?
Sure, yeah. In FY 2024, we're in 24, right? Yeah. There was no funding set aside for that activity.
Okay. And in the previous year?
No.
Nothing. Okay.
Any other questions from the commissioners in regards to this item? All right, would any member of the public like to provide a comment regarding this item? You will have up to 3 minutes for comment. Do we have anyone online? I will now close public comment. Angela, I have to take a motion. Okay.
I did want to speak about the,
Yes, I have one more item
Okay,
where you can speak, Mr. Morales. Thank you. Do I have any motions from our commissioners?
Motions for the budget?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So I would like to make a motion to set aside $2 million for nonprofits and other community organizations who provide after-school recreation and community services and workforce development programming through our park system so that they may apply for Measure P grant support.
All second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Cummings and second by Commissioner Singh. Can we please conduct a roll call vote?
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner Kucharski,
Yes.
Commissioner Singh,
Yes.
Commissioner Cummings,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Vice Chair Dolan,
Aye.
Chair McCoy.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Do I have any other motions from our commissioners in regards to fiscal year 2025 budget recommendations?
I have another motion. I would like to make a motion for Public Works to be allocated approximately $200,000 to establish a new urban forester position for the city of Fresno.
I second that motion. City Clerk, can you conduct a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner Kucharski,
Yes.
Commissioner Singh,
Yes.
Commissioner Cummings,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
I wish we could do these motions like with a written, like what that would include and how, but considering we're doing it this way, yes, I do approve it.
Vice Chair Dolan,
Aye.
and Chair McCoy.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Any more recommendations from my commissioners?
I'd like to make a motion that we recommend $50,000 be set aside for the purpose of translating Measure P information into other languages.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Can you please conduct a roll call vote?
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner Kucharski,
Yes.
Commissioner Singh,
Yes.
Commissioner Cummings,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes. And I hope that's the right amount.
Vice Chair Dolan,
Aye.
and Chair McCoy.
I have a question. Are we already translating materials into other languages?
We are on our materials, our outreach, we translate in 4 different languages. So yes, we currently are in the Parks Department.
Okay.
I think none of the arts materials from
Gotcha.
Measure P are getting translated.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other motions tonight?
I have a question. Does it have to have a budgeted amount, or can I just make a recommendation generally?
Our attorney.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. And I do not.
Thank you. We will now move on. Oh, before we move on, just a reminder that November 20th will be the last meeting for the commission to make recommendations to City Council. So please come ready if you have any recommendations that you would like to make to City Council to take in consideration. We will now move on to ID number 23-1617. Hearing to receive public input on allocations related to Measure P updates to Master Plan and Cultural Arts Plan and Annual Parks Department budget and capital improvements. Would any member of the public like to provide a comment regarding this item? You will have 3 minutes, and I do have 2 cards here. Hugo Morales, can you come up to the podium, please? You'll have 3 minutes.
First, good evening. First, I want to commend this commissioners for these motions that were made. Each one, I think, is in the spirit of making, Measure P funding equitable and available as much as possible within the structure. So, thank you so much. I'm here just to inform you that I did appear at the hearing for for the Measure P guidelines, opposing them, and and I'll tell you the reason why. And then because one of the city council, so it was pulled from the agenda at the last city council meeting. For further consideration. And so usually those matters, as I understand, are taken up in the afternoon of that day. But however, one of the council members fell ill during lunch. And so the hearing's been postponed to the 16th. So anyway, so I think in line with what just transpired, I have taken exception to some of the provisions of the guidelines, which were adopted by you and forwarded over to City Council. And one is that there is no requirement for documenting the audience of the people to receive, the candidates to receive the funding. And I represent Radio Bilingüe and the Alliance for California Traditional Arts. Think that's against the spirit of Measure P. We should know what the current audience is and what that organization would do with that funding. In subsequent times, they should document how it is that the funding did in fact help in expanding access to the arts, which is the basic premise of those. And the second one is that there are not enough. The question whether there's enough funds designated to allow for small budgeted organizations and startup to participate fully. And the third is that under the guidelines, proposed guidelines, their organizations can apply to both general funds and project funds. And because of the limited amount of funding, we are proposing that organizations be limited to either general funds or project funds. Thank you very much. And I am going to leave a copy of my comments for those of you who might want to see. Again, I cannot get over there, or you can distribute. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have anyone online?
No, we don't.
Thank you. I will now close public comment. Does any member of the commission have questions or comments regarding this item? All right, it is 7:08. I would like to adjourn the meeting in the memory of Dr. Francine Apuda, who is greatly missed. Thank you for attending to the public, and enjoy your evening with your family. Good night.
Thank you.